Hi guys, and welcome to a new Mew Mew Blog Thingy. Today we'll be covering something not really official, but has had one of the biggest impacts to the fanbase. We'll be going over the fansub of the series, more specifically, the most glaring mistakes the fansubs have made when translating the show. This will mostly be from the Honobono translation since they were the only fansubbing group to do all of the episodes. Before legal simulcast streams were widely available for anime, a lot of fans counted on fansubbing to get access to the original Japanese versions of shows that weren't officially licensed. While helpful to a lot of anime fans at the time, there were some downsides. For one thing, fansubbers didn't have the official scripts for the episodes, so they had to listen to the episode and make their best guess on what was being said. This resulted in many mistranslations in the show and misheard lyrics in insert songs. There were also fansubbers that liked to spice up the translations or put their own spin on them, resulting in a lot of vulgar language, translating things too literally resulting in a lot of awkward dialogue, and what I find most annoying, not translating certain things and putting the translation in cliff notes on top of the screen. Tokyo Mew Mew's fansub had all of these problems. We'll first cover the character names. As stated in my fourth blog thingy concerning theme naming, the Mew Mews are supposed to have civilian and secret identity names. So it would be Minto Aizawa, Mew Mint, Retasu Midorikawa, Mew Lettuce, and Buling Huang, Mew Pudding. The fansubs didn't bother with this and just called them Mint, Lettuce, and Pudding, even when normal. Two of the English manga translations also did this, most likely because they thought two names for each girl would be too confusing for the kids. But this also caused some people to this day to think that Zakuro was never named after a food. To those who still don't know, Zakuro means pomegranate. The aliens are also named after food: quiche, pie, and tart. For some reason, the fansubs decided not to translate their names at all and stuck to the Japanese pronunciations of the words by spelling them as kishu, pie, and taruto, despite the manga already translating pie and tart's names correctly before the anime even aired. For the longest time, quiche was spelled as K-I-S-H, most likely so kids would know how to pronounce it. This spelling was corrected in the Kodansha's translation of a la mode. Then there are the weapon names. Like the Tokyo Pop translation, the fansubs completely get rid of the puns in their names. So instead of Straw Bell Bell, Mint Tone Arrow, Lettuce Tenets, Pudding Ring, and Zakross Whip, we have Strawberry Bell, Mint Arrow, Pudding Ring, and Zakuro's Whip. Lettuce's weapon was translated inconsistently. Sometimes it was Lettuce Tanets or Lettuce Castanets. While going for the same intent without the puns is usually okay, this caused a huge mistranslation in Zakuro's attack name. It was originally Ribbon Zakross Pure. Because they didn't have access to how the attack name was written, this got translated as Ribbon Zakuro Spear in the fansub. The aliens' weapons and attacks also had slight mistranslations. Quiche's dragon swords had the correct translation, but Tart's weapon Horaikyu was mistranslated as Gourd Ball, when the actual translation to his weapon and attack is Treasure Sphere. Sorry fansubbers, but Hyotan is the Japanese word for gourd, not Horai. Throughout the series, the fansubbers kept going back and forth between Furaisen and Kuraisen for Pai's weapon, even though he obviously said Ku. There's also the fact that he doesn't do wind attacks as often as lightning ones, so the name is the latter, which translates as Sky Thunder Fan. Next up is one of Ichigo's catchphrases. In both the anime and manga, Ichigo had two. We know her usual phrase, Chikyu no mirai ni go hoshi suru nyan, but there was another, which was Ore ni tappuri go hoshi suru nyan, which roughly translates as, with full gratitude, I'll be of service, Mew. Since the Tokyo Pop manga, which was the only official translation at the time, didn't bother translating it properly, going for the phrase for your evil actions I will make you pay, the fansubbers had to listen and guess. And guessed it wrong. So we got weird gems like, for your evil actions I'll give you a taste of cat spirit. I'm going to service you in return. And, by the ribbon spirit I'll be of service. They eventually got it right. The very last time she said it in episode 50. Next, we have the untranslated stuff. The most common is the whole Onisan One-san thing. While it literally means big brother or big sister, I can somewhat understand why these were left untranslated. Emphasis on somewhat. What isn't excusable is other things such as kawaii, in which they even put a cliff note saying it means cute. Why didn't you just put cute in the subtitles? Don't you realize that it took a lot more time to put that note instead of just translating it? They also left in words such as baka and otoshdama, when they could have just put down idiot or New Year's allowance. The fansub also added a lot of cursing, some that are way too extreme for a kids anime. One example is Kish's little quip with Kana Sayonji. In the scene, Kish referred to her as omae, but if used in such a way like using it to someone you don't know or saying it to someone of Kana's stature, it's considered rude. The closest translation, while keeping its original intent, would be him calling her a brat or a jerk. After Kana tells him not to refer to her in that manner, Kish responds by saying that she has an awful attitude, in which the fansubbers translated it as this. There's also a scene when Pai comes off as quite rude to Kish. Sure, Pai gets irritated by Kish on a constant basis. He's also known to speak in a polite manner, although not quite Rethisu levels in terms of speech. So having him talk to Kish that rudely is a bit out of character. Basically, any of the more harsher curse words in the fansubs were not actually said. There were also outright mistranslations present throughout the series. Some were small and unimportant in the grand scheme of things, such as in episode 19 when a bunch of fanboys see Sakura. The fansubs put down a guy saying to his friend, "Take a closer look," so that they could see if it was her. What he actually said was to call out to her. Then there's the more serious stuff. In episode 17, when Ichigo attempts to jump out of her window to get away from Kish, she panics and manages to grab onto a tree and slides down. The fansubs put down her response as, "Luckily, I have these cat-like powers." What she actually said was, which means, "I knew it, my cat powers didn't come out." Which makes more sense since she was sick and that was suppressing her powers. So the fansubbers not only mistranslated this, but implied the exact opposite of what happened. Out of the whole series, episode 22 suffered the most. Poor quality DVD ripped footage aside, it had almost everything listed for a bad fansub. Untranslated Japanese, just put down summer festival, bad grammar, poorly timed subtitles, and lots of mistranslations. For starters, you can just tell that a lot of the sentences weren't fully translated. One glaring example is when Ichigo is talking to Moe, and the fansubbers decided to just put in a bunch of ellipses. Also, during the scene where the aliens are eating shaved ice and Pai talks about humans ruining the ozone, the fansubs translate Kish's response as, "Humans shouldn't mess with that stuff." What he actually said was, which roughly means, "If we leave humanity alone, they'll just destroy themselves." The main reason he was saying that was because he was wondering why they were going through all the trouble of destroying humanity when they're just going to kill themselves off anyways. The biggest offender in this episode is that despite these fansubbers translating it correctly for the past 6 episodes, for some reason only God knows, they translated Ichigo's attack as Ribbon Strawberry Flash. What in Deep Blue's name were they smoking that day? You can just tell that they didn't care all that much concerning this episode. Another big offender, this going back to involving names, is Buling. As stated in the theme naming blog, she's Chinese, so the proper pronunciation of her name is Buling Huang, but the Japanese pronounce the kanji as Puring Fong. Despite strongly implying that Buling's father is from China, and thus she can speak Mandarin, the fansubs spell her last name as Wang, which is the Cantonese pronunciation. This is inaccurate since Cantonese is mainly spoken in Hong Kong. Also, the fansubs call her father Tarin Wang, as if Tarin is his first name. Tairin, or Dairin, is actually a Mandarin honorific that is used to address someone with high honor. The closest English translation of that would be Sir, Lord, or Master. So the fansubs having Yue Bing Long call him Master Tairin Wang is kind of redundant. And that ends this long list. There are plenty more mistranslations, but naming them all would make this video a lot longer than I intended it to be. In the end, I suspect about 85% of the Honobono fansubs are completely accurate. There's also the Jumanji Girl fansubs, but all those are is the Honobono fansubs put to DVD footage with some of the mistranslations fixed. Even then, most of the mistranslations are still there, and there are a few new mistakes, mainly in the weapon and attack names. Zakuro's weapon is not a spear. Anyway, with that, I'll end this blog thingy. If there are any more Mew Mew topics you want me to talk about, put it in the comments below. Tune in next time where I'll talk about a different aspect of translation, debates on certain terminology. A couple other things. When Ichigo does her Mew Aqua Drops attack, she is clearly saying all this in English. Why are the Fansubs putting it down in Latin? Was English not fancy schmancy enough for you? Also in episode 17, why did the Fansubbers try to make it seem like everyone was referring to Ichigo in the third person?